Things are gonna get crazy.
Most everyone's mad here.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a very wild episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And oh my goodness, already we're starting things off with a new fish here. Thank you so much, JF. Hey, how are you all doing, everybody? And hold on, pause that. We've got more new fishes going around, including J Monty. But anyways, as I was saying, hopefully you're all doing well, and the start of the summer has been going great. And oh my god, more new fishes, like just immediately beginning this with new subscribers and new fishes. Wow, this is going pretty wild. Like, I know this is a wild episode, but even the people in the chat wall are really going wild for this. I can already tell the excitement is really going high here. But anyways, I know that when it comes to the stream itself, I mean, it doesn't make any difference for any of you in the future, either listening to this in whatever podcast service you're listening to, or maybe watching this on YouTube or whatever. But I know it seems rather unusual that I would go and start this stream earlier than usual. Well, that is because I have two reasons for that. Number one is because this is going to be a pretty big episode, and I just want to go and prepare just in case if I do need that extra time. Considering that most of this, or I would even say almost the entire episode, with one exception for a story that I will be saving later, this is primarily going to be about all the major announcements that has happened at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival. And it's very unusual that we would get a week in which so many animation news would go and come out so soon, so quickly, and there's just so much. It's almost overwhelming, I would even say. Even today, as I'm recording this, there's a bunch of additional big news that occurred, and those ones, I gotta say, I think I'll go and save that for the next episode. But for this one here, I know that I had to go and make some sacrifices along the way. I know that there's been a lot that other studios would go and highlight and talk about their upcoming projects, including Aardman and Netflix. But the ones that I have here, however, I believe they are the most intriguing to go and fully talk about in this podcast. So you'll understand how this is going to be a major episode, more so than usual, where you will get to hear a lot of big announcements that has come out of Annecy. But then there's also the second reason, and to be honest, it is because later in the evening, or at least in the evening as I am recording this, I have a screening of Minions and Monsters to go. I managed to get an early screening of it, so I'm gonna go and catch that. And a part of why I'm doing the podcast early is mainly because so that I don't have to go and immediately rush my way to the screening. I have some time in between where I could go and settle everything with the podcast, and then I can leisure my way onto going to see Minions and Monsters so that I could go and start that review. So hopefully it could go and come out this week. So that's pretty much my big plan of what I got for that, and pretty much to go and explain everything with what is happening today. But anyways, with all the explanations out of the way, actually, there is a couple of more that I want to mention. Now, I know that there have also been some pretty dark times that has happened, including the earthquake that has happened in Venezuela that has caused some very significant damage, and unfortunately, it has cost the lives of people in the 4 digits. Like, the casualties is like a frightening amount. And by the way, thank you, Metamal, for being another new fish. But at the same time, since we are going to be talking about Annecy, it is also worth highlighting about one individual who did sadly pass away during the festival, and that is Luis de Rosa. Luis de Rosa has unfortunately passed away at the age of 34 due to a train accident while attending the festival. And it's worth mentioning that with Luis de Rosa, he is a young animator who has already worked on numerous of big name projects. He worked on the Spider-Verse films. He also worked on Carmen de San Diego, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and even worked on the pilot of Knights of Guinevere. So it's unfortunate to hear that someone at the festival has sadly passed away. So may Luis de Rosa rest in peace. All right, so now with all of that out of the way, now it is time that I shall go and ask the chat wall, are you all ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Who is ready to go and start this thing? All right, so let's see. Yes, people are prepared. People are all set. All right, that is wonderful. That is great to see. And now, with that said, it is time that we are now going to go and get things started. And with our first big piece of Annecy news, we are going to go and look into Warner Brothers. Considering that with Warner Brothers, they got a big future plan in terms of their feature animation division, since they have been trying for years to go and reboot it and try to shape it up into a new image. They did have a little bit of a period during the 2010s where things seemed to be working out with things like the Lego movies, but then ultimately that ended up falling flat, and even the Lego movie turned out to be a flop. So from there, hopefully with this new updated version as Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, they can go and actually find a new voice, find a new image for themselves to show that the WB's feature animation can still be a powerful force as much as the others in Hollywood, like Disney or DreamWorks or Illumination or Sony or what have you. And in Annecy, they went to go and try to prove that. So with that said, let's go and discuss with what has happened at Annecy with Warner Brothers Pictures Animation. And one of the major things that they have revealed at this year's Annecy is actually their upcoming lineup, starting with what's going to be coming out later this year with not just the Cat in the Hat movie, but also went in length to discuss about an animated short that will be accompanied by the Cat in the Hat, which is going to be a new Looney Tunes cartoon called Daffy Season. And to go and read you a little bit about what this is about, just to go and read you an excerpt from my source on Animation Magazine, it says here, an original Looney Tunes theatrical short that is celebrated its world premiere at Annecy, directed by Todd Wilderman and Hamish Grieve, and produced by Susan Salgi Rogers, with production design by Rachel Daniel Gallo, inspired by the iconic work of Maurice Noble. All right, well, that is the credits, but I do believe I have another link that should go a bit more in a description of what this is. Yes, okay. This other source from Animation Magazine could go and help out to give you a better picture of what this is. So, following the discussion of the studio's new vision was the world premiere of the anarchic theatrical short Daffy Season. The team highlighted the work of Rachel Daniel Gallo, a production designer whose art in the film was inspired by Maurice Noble's vivid, stylized environment. It was important to honor the handcrafted spirit of animation, Wilderman said. Grieve added that even with all of the homage, the team's goal wasn't to recreate the past, but to build on it. The timing of the short is uncanny, featuring a story about Daffy Duck's fit of jealous rage when he realized the duck hunting season has been replaced by a feverish love of soccer. Well, interesting considering that we got FIFA going on. So I don't know if it's going to continue with that like whole soccer fever in November, but I guess we will wait and see with what's in store. Now, of course, that's just going to be coming out in 2026. At the same time, they've also revealed what's going to be coming up in the next 2 years, including in 2027, when they revealed that there are going to be 2 animated features that WBPA is going to be releasing. These will include Bad Fairies, which is going to be developed by Locksmith Animation. And you also got the holiday movie Margie Claus, which will be starring Melissa McCarthy. And then you got 2028, in which they got not 1, not 2, not 3, but they're planning on 4 animated features that they are going to be releasing. These include The Lunar Chronicles, which is going to be another movie that will be made by Locksmith Animation. Oh, The Places You'll Go, which is the musical based on the Dr. Seuss book, in which they already casted Ariana Grande and Josh Gad. They also got the DC movie Dynamic Duo, which promises to be very innovative with its use of animation. That's also going to be mixing a bit of puppetry as well. And you also got the Hello Kitty movie that is going to be in production. While at the same time, in there, they have mentioned that there are going to be other movies beyond 2028 that they are currently in production, which will include some big name IPs, which features Tom and Jerry, Thundercats, Meerkats, as well as a Powerpuff Girls movie. But out of all the big announcements that Warner Brothers has made in terms of their lineup, even though they are plenty prepared for what's going to be to come in the rest of this decade, probably the biggest announcement for animation fans is that they got a new original musical. And I mean, considering that it looks like Warner Brothers got a bit of the musical bug, considering that we got Bad Fairies as well as The Places You'll Go. They will be musicals, but there is another one that they got in store, which is going to be directed by, or not just directed and written by VivziePop. Yes, folks, the Warner Brothers has managed to get VivziePop to go and write and direct a new original movie, which it is going to be called Prehistoria. Now, this is still very early in production, and the only thing that we do know in terms of the details that will be in store in this is the fact that this is not going to be associated with the Helliverse. So Prehistoria has nothing to do with either Hazbin Hotel or Hell of a Boss. But one thing that is confirmed is that Vivian Madrano, aka VivziePop, will be writing and directing the feature. And on top of that, from this article of The Hollywood Reporter, we do have a little bit of a quote from Vivian here, to which she states, "Since I began my animation journey, my biggest dream was to be part of a feature film. Now to be creating an original story that I have been holding for years with Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, a studio whose characters and stories have been a huge part of my life, it truly is a dream come true. I'm so excited to share this fossil fantasy world with everyone." Now, do keep in mind that considering that we did get the recent lineup from Warner Brothers, I believe that with Prehistoria, this thing is not going to be coming out anytime soon. If I would have to go and guess when this is going to be released, I'm thinking maybe in the early 2030s. Maybe we'll see this like somewhere around 2031 or 2032 at the latest. And this is not even to factor in that some people might be wondering, well, what's going to happen with the Warner Brothers deal with Paramount? Are things going to change? That's going to be a whole other story altogether. But for now, let's just focus on what we currently have. And like I mentioned before, the big thing that Warner Brothers wants to do is to go and say that they are back with their feature animation lineup. And it really shows that they are going big. In fact, I was trying to double check often to see like, wait, is 2028 really going to be that busy for Warner Brothers Animation? I mean, I do get it that, you know, they got the assistance of Locksmith Animation to additionally create animated movies as well for the WB, like having the Lunar Chronicles and Bad Fairies. Okay, that, you know, that does aid up on some things, like that does help out in terms of clearing out the schedule. But that still doesn't change that they also got some other high profile projects that's going to be in store. That they also got Hello Kitty, and then they also got the Places You'll Go, that they're going to continue the legacy of like producing more Dr. Seuss movies. And then they also got another project that technically it is going to be made by another studio, that you got Dynamic Duo that's going to be involved. So they're already presenting how they want to be back in a big way, and not to mention even trying to make the most out of the properties that they do own, because keep in mind with Warner Brothers, they got an eclectic collection of classic cartoons. And I mean, yes, it is great that they would have like original, you know, like they should be making more original projects, and it's, you know, and it's great that they are planning to go and bring them out, kind of like with what we are seeing with you know, with some projects like with Prehistoria. But it's also important to go and keep the legacy of these classic cartoons alive, especially with something like Tom and Jerry, that I know that it's been in production for quite some time. And I know it might be debatable, some people could say, but so far we have yet to see a Tom and Jerry movie that is worthwhile to watch, as a nice way of putting it. So hopefully maybe they'll go and land it with this one. So I know they've been very busy with that, but then also like you got stuff like Thundercats, and even a new Powerpuff Girls movie. And that one, I gotta say, with Powerpuff Girls, that is rather surprising to hear. And maybe it's because, well, this other piece of news is still fresh. Like, when I heard that they want to do a new Powerpuff Girls movie, I am still a little bit iffy on it. But a big part is because, you know, we're still at a point where the passing of Tom Kane still feels pretty fresh. And, you know, and if we're going to go and continue making a Powerpuff Girls movie without the voice of Professor Utonium, that feels like, I don't know if I feel ready for that. I don't know. But I mean, with Powerpuff Girls, that's not in their current lineup of what's going to be coming soon. Maybe this is going to be another one that's going to be coming out like much later, maybe in like, maybe in the early 2030s, or maybe before a bit, like in 2029 or something like that. But I don't know. That's the one that honestly with Powerpuff Girls, I kind of feel iffy. But again, the Tom Kane factor is still relatively fresh. So I would need some time like to really think like, do we need another Powerpuff Girls movie right now? But of course, with the big one, considering that we're going to be getting like a theatrically released VivziePop movie with the help of Warner Brothers, I think that's going to be a factor that is a massive deal. And I do believe that this is a big part to what we are currently seeing right now, where Hollywood is starting to take YouTubers seriously as creatives, especially with what we have been seeing with the big success of several YouTube related projects. Of course, at the start of the year, we got Markiplier's Iron Lung. And then after that, we also got the big success of Obsession and Backrooms, since those were actually made by very young YouTubers. And then we also got another example with the Amazing Digital Circus, that The Last Act actually did pretty well at the box office, where even on its first weekend, it managed to be up among the top 5 highest grossing films during that week. So already we are seeing how YouTube related movies, rather it be because of the creator or because the property was massively popular on the internet, such as Backrooms or The Amazing Digital Circus. It's proven to be very profitable, and now we're going to see more and more of stuff like this. And in the world of animation, this is a big step of getting VivziePop, whom I would argue is possibly one of the most high-profile indie creators in animation, and giving her a chance to go and fully create a movie. I gotta say, that is honestly incredible. And I gotta say, like, I congratulate Vivian on this epic accomplishment. So how the movie is going to be, if it's going to be hand drawn or if it's going to be CG, I guess time will tell. We'll see like what Vivian's vision is going to be with that feature, but ultimately, like, I do believe that, you know, because it's from the creator of Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, I think this is definitely going to be a project that we're going to have to keep an eye out on whenever it's going to be, of course. But still, I feel like this is a factor in which, like, now we're seeing the internet influence now starting to get into the major studios. And yeah, this is honestly like a big jump for Warner Brothers to go and take. But considering that they are in a position where they're fully rebooting their image, it's pretty much the perfect time in order to do so. You know, if you're going to go and start fresh with your image as an animation studio that produces theatrically released animated features, why not go and actually take some major risks and, give out some new opportunities and give people like VivziePop a chance to go and produce feature films. It's honestly like that. I feel like it is such a big deal, and what I would argue is the biggest highlight in terms of what Warner Brothers went to go and present. So, of course, overall, this is to go and show that the WB has plenty in store in terms of feature animation, but the big one I do find is that we are going to be getting a VivziePop movie thanks to them. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you all, what do you all think of all the announcements from Warner Brothers Pictures Animation? And which one would you say is the most exciting that you want to go and check out? Rather it be the stuff that's coming soon or that's going to be much later in the future. Let me know what you think. All right, so let's see here. Such a cool lineup for Warner Brothers Animation. The ones that I am the most interested are The Cat in the Hat and Prehistoria. The reason why I say that is because I really love the works of both Dr. Seuss with his books and Vivian Madrano because of her works like Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. I don't know if Prehistoria is going to have swearing, since that's what animation fans know her for. They know her for her shows. But with that big news out of the way, I can't wait for what Warner Brothers has in store. That is interesting, actually. You do bring up a good point, but I do have a feeling with, like, if she is going to be making a theatrically released animated feature, I believe it's going to be more family friendly compared to Has Been Hotel or Hell of a Boss, where I think I could totally be wrong, and maybe this could come out as something like PG-13 or even a hard R rating. But I feel like with what VivziePop might have in store and working for Warner Brothers, she'll have to tone down her swearing at the very least. But either way, that's just going to be a minor issue. I don't think that's going to be something that would go and affect the quality of her craftsmanship. Anyways, I will say there are some interesting announcements. For me, I'm curious about Daffy Season because it's a new Looney Tunes short, Dynamic Duo, and VivziePop writing and directing Prehistoria, which could have potential. However, I'm concerned. I'm wondering if most of these projects will be happening, mainly because if the merger with Paramount ends up occurring, they could end up killing off some of these projects. So I'm taking these announcements with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's like what I said before. Like, take all this with like with this right now. Let's just focus on like what they have today and not have to worry about what's going to be happening with the merger. That's like a whole other factor altogether. And like, you know, and for now, let's just be happy that these things have been announced and that hopefully this plan that WBPA has set up, like, it will remain intact. All right. Anyways, nice to see that WB is still bouncing back into the animation game after everything. The new Daffy short sounds fun. Bad Fairies, I'm weirdly hyped for. Margie Claus could be decent, even if it's a Melissa McCarthy produced film. VivziePop's movie could be kind of fun, but what really intrigues me is the new Powerpuff Girls movie. What could that be? I mean, it could work if the team behind the CW reboot stay away from it. Seriously, what were they thinking with that? Well, I mean, it's going to be a new animated film, so I don't think they're going to go in the direction of that freaking CW reboot. Anyways, of all the big announcements WB has made, one of them that I'm most hyped for were Hello Kitty, Tom and Jerry, and Prehistoria. For Tom and Jerry, I really do hope it's much better than the 2021 film. It honestly made the 1992 movie look like a masterpiece. For Prehistoria, it's really cool that she's getting work at a big studio like WB. Even with the elephant in the room, I'm wishing her the very best of luck in making an amazing film after going big on YouTube. Indie creators deserve more love. Exactly, man. Let's see what other comments, if anybody has others to go and say. Let's see. Okay. I see a mix of possibilities with this fresh new start. With Dr. Seuss adaptations, VivziePop, and Powerpuff Girls. All the Places You'll Go is one of the few Seuss books I can imagine lending itself to a feature film, if handled well. The Powerpuff Girls, I'm a bit more perplexed towards, since the reboot has ended now and wasn't even the most popular when it was running. And in any case, as long as Zaslav is out, I'm happy. Yeah, but do keep in mind, like, I know, like I just said, let's forget about it, but like, if we are going to be discussing about leadership, do keep in mind that right now we're seeing a possible future where you know, the evil might be destroyed, but the evil turns out it's going to be replaced by something that will be under new management. To paraphrase Titan from Megamind. So just thought it's worth noting. Let's see. I think I got time for one more here. So, okay, I'll go actually over here. The new WB logo for Warner Brothers Pictures Animation is absolutely lit. But why is Tweety now considered the mascot for WB when we all know she's one of the most hated Looney Tunes characters out there? And by the way, for those of you who are wondering what the commenter is talking about, yes, during the presentation, I forgot to mention that Warner Brothers also presented a new logo with what's going to be to come for Warner Brothers Pictures Animation. And yes, Tweety is kind of like the main mascot that is presented, at least for that one. But I do believe you could go on social media or on YouTube and you could go and find it yourself. Anyways, hell, I'd rather have Daffy be the official mascot of WBPA. So yeah, the timeline for this, for their films is looking promising, including VivziePop's film, and I'll be seated for that the most, since Vivzie was so nice to me. Ah, very nice. All right, so that was Warner Brothers presentation. Now we're going to go on to our first break, and when we do come back, we're going to go and move on to something that could technically count as still Warner Brothers, but now we're going to go and check out the announcements with what part of their television animation division has in store. All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we're going to stay in the realm of Warner Brothers, and now that I think about it, probably out of all the studios out there, Warner Brothers probably provided the most announcements at this year's Annecy, because there was the feature division that I already talked about, but then there's also DC that I just thought about that they also put out a huge pile of announcements of their own, in which many of those, of course, feature stuff like, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there is a Starfire spinoff that they are preparing for, as well as My Adventures with Green Lantern, and a bunch of other DC series, including an animated adaptation of Absolute Batman. But what I am about to get into, actually, is going to be in regards to Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, considering that they also revealed a big pile of announcements of their own. But what's interesting is that the big highlight is not necessarily what specific show that they are going to be released, but rather it's in regards to what will be happening next year, considering that it's going to be a landmark year for both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, and also one creator who's going to be very busy at Cartoon Network Studios. And that creator that I'm talking about is, of course, Genndy Tartakovsky. So you may remember in previous years of Annecy, Adult Swim would go and talk about an animated show that they've been collaborating with Genndy Tartakovsky that involves animals in a heist. And previously, it was called Heist Safari, or it would have different titles. Now, however, it looks like they got a big update with that project, and they have officially confirmed that Adult Swim has greenlit Genndy's Heist series, to which now it is going to be called Heist Brothers. And reading from my source on Deadline, it has a little bit of a description of what this is about, where it says here, described as a high-octane animated action comedy, Heist Brothers tells the story of three frog brothers who rob a bank. Seems simple enough, but the execution is special as regarding the log line. And with the big thing, how this is officially greenlit, Adult Swim has announced that they have ordered 10 15-minute episodes for this series. Now, they did not officially confirm when this is going to be coming out, but they did say that this is happening and that Genndy Tartakovsky is currently at Cartoon Network Studios working on this series. But the crazy thing, however, with this is that they have also revealed about another project that Genndy Tartakovsky is also working on right now, considering that it's not just the Heist Brothers that he's developing at Cartoon Network Studios. He is also working on a Conan the Barbarian series. Yes, but unlike Heist Brothers, however, even though this is being developed at Cartoon Network Studios, this is actually going to be released on Amazon Prime Video. And Genndy Tartakovsky himself actually does have a comment in regards to the development of this Conan series in particular, to which he says here, now reading from my source on Variety, it states, I've been trying to develop Conan since 2008, but the world was not ready. But now, after Adult Swim, Samurai Jack, and Primal, it's prime time for this to come to life. I have been so inspired by the books written by Robert E. Howard, whose works I have a personal connection with. So far, I feel super excited. This is the only IP I've worked on other than Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and I think it's going to be something special. Now, again, we don't necessarily have a release date on when this is going to be coming out, but considering that this is a project that Genndy has been, he's been trying to bring to life for almost 20 years, we'll see how things are going to go when this will be coming out sometime on Amazon Prime Video. At the same time, however, those were not the only announcements that Cartoon Network and Adult Swim has made, because they have also revealed a bunch of other animated shows that are going to be coming up both on Cartoon Network and on HBO Max. To which one project they have revealed is going to be another Adventure Time spinoff. This time, it's going to be called Adventure Time Bubblegum and Marceline, to which that is also going to be coming soon. And at the same time, other projects that they have revealed and discussed about at the Annecy Film Festival include the Scooby-Doo anime Yokoso Scooby-Doo, Foster's Fun Time with Imaginary Friends, Super Mutant Magic Academy, and even premiered 2 episodes of Adventure Time Side Quests, to which you could go and actually check it out on Hulu right now. Since as I am recording this, it is the premiere of that series. And also, with all of these announcements, what is possibly the biggest reveal from both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim is not just regarding the Genndy Tartakovsky projects, but also they got some new specials that are going to be coming out in 2027. And these ones, they're not necessarily animated shows. They're not just like, oh, this is a new cartoon that we have coming out. No. This is actually going to be in regards to the anniversaries of Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. Yes, considering that next year is going to be the 35th anniversary of Cartoon Network, the studio is now going to be making a 5-part documentary all about Cartoon Network, in which, of course, it will be celebrating the 35th anniversary of the channel. And to go into my source again on Variety, it states here that the series, set to release in 2027, will explore the network and its idiosyncratic artists across multiple eras, from the checkerboard to the dimensional and beyond, taking in the foundations of the company as a custodian for classic cartoons to a force for original work from artists who would become vastly influential to the medium of animation as a whole. At the same time, we also did get a comment from the president of both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, Michael Whelan, who mentioned about this documentary by saying here, most sane people don't write a memoir at 35 years old, but Cartoon Network has never been sane. 3 decades of audiences have had their childhood shaped by the iconoclastic series and on-air voice of Cartoon Network, and now creators across every medium are drawing from that influence. When incredibly talented Cartoon Network alumni pitched the idea of capturing the spirit behind the network from Atlanta to Burbank across the decades, there was never any question. Cartoon Network started with a library of cartoons, but quickly became something much bigger, a cultural force and an object lesson in what courage and originality can mean. The only question that this documentary doesn't answer is the most essential one, the tagline that helped define the brand from the beginning. You with us? But that is not all in terms of the celebrations, because at the same time, we also got Robot Chicken that's also going to be doing some celebrations for both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. First and foremost, they also got a Cartoon Network special that's going to be coming next year, to which it says right here, the documentary isn't the only programming planned for the 35th anniversary. Also in production is a Cartoon Network special from the stop-motion comedy series Robot Chicken, produced for Adult Swim by Stupid Buddy Studios. Known for its spiky pop culture parodies and quick-fire style, Robot Chicken, itself 20 years old, will look to Cartoon Network characters this time. A first-look image showing a table featuring Courage the Cowardly Dog and Johnny Bravo alongside characters from Scooby-Doo, with the special planned for release in 2027. At the same time, later this summer, we are also going to be getting another special from Robot Chicken that will be honoring the 25th anniversary of Adult Swim. To which it says here, Robot Chicken Adult Swim special sees every iconic character in Adult Swim's history, including the likes of Assy McGee and Brock Sampson from Venture Brothers, alongside characters from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Metalopocalypse, and Black Jesus on a cruise ship, celebrating the network's 25 years. To which that is going to be planned to be coming out on Sunday, August 30th, to which the day afterwards, it will be premiering on HBO Max. So those are all the big announcements that they got at Cartoon Network. And I think one big one, of course, that they highlighted is how Genndy Tartakovsky is really going to be involved at Cartoon Network. I think after Fix, it looks like he's going to be taking some time away from Sony Animation, from making movies and more Hotel Transylvania stuff. And now he's going to be putting in a lot of his focus onto what he has at Cartoon Network Studios. I mean, of course, I could be wrong, and maybe Genndy does have a few surprises at Sony Animation. That is still a possibility. But for now, it looks like a lot of his time is going to be occupied at Cartoon Network Studios with both the Heist brothers and Conan the Barbarian. And I will say personally, if there is one that I would say I'm more curious to go and watch than the other, I would say is probably Conan the Barbarian, because I feel like with Genndy Tartakovsky, at least in my opinion, he lands more in terms of his more serious works or his more action-packed works than he does with his comedy works, especially nowadays. I mean, like when you think of his more serious action-packed stuff, like with Samurai Jack or Star Wars Clone Wars, or even with Primal especially, I feel like Genndy is a lot more at the top of his game compared to the more comedic stuff that he has made nowadays, like with the Hotel Transylvania films or just recently with Fix. So that's why I'm going to be keeping my eye out a little bit more towards Conan the Barbarian than with the Heist brothers, especially when he has mentioned that he's a huge fan of Conan the Barbarian. I think Genndy Tartakovsky did a wonderful job with his Clone Wars micro series. So that's why I want to see with what he's going to have in store with Conan the Barbarian. And as for the other stuff that Cartoon Network has revealed, of course, one thing that debatably the most exciting thing for me that has been revealed has to be the 5-part docuseries on Cartoon Network. I'm, of course, one of those people that did grow up with Cartoon Network, and considering that I believe about a decade ago, actually, I have done my own documentary on the history of Cartoon Network. It's going to be very fascinating to see how Cartoon Network has evolved over the years from like the golden era, or like from its classic era in from the 1990s to the early 2000s, and then you got their revival era with the 2010s and stuff like that. It's going to be fascinating to see Cartoon Network, like with all of its ups and downs, how its history would go. And I mean, doing a whole 5-part docuseries, I think it is a very solid idea, and I think it could really work out. I mean, like when a docuseries can be handled very well, it could honestly turn out amazing. Like one comparison that I could think of, like one docuseries I personally really liked, is the Imagineering story that you can find on Disney Plus. I remember it was released, released on the same day as Disney Plus came out, and it revealed the history of Walt Disney Imagineering and the Disney parks from the very beginnings with the opening of Disneyland all the way to 2019, when Rise of the Resistance was the latest ride at the time. And honestly, that was a great and very captivating series that if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go and check it out. But if this Cartoon Network series can be on the same league as the Imagineering story, where they would go and create this fascinating history, like really present so much of Cartoon Network, of both its history and its cultural impact. I think we would honestly get something truly awesome right there. And of course, we do get a lot of the fun stuff that's going to be coming out. Of course, I can imagine, I can imagine with Robot Chicken, they can find a lot of fun materials to do to like satire, but also honor the legacy of both Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. And then at the same time, you also got like plenty of the other Cartoon Network shows. And I mean, you still got Adventure Time fans that they're still eating very well. I mean, they're going from Fiona and Cake, and now they're having side quests, and then later on they're going to be getting Bubblegum and Marceline. So yeah, like Adventure Time is still going strong with all of these spin-offs. So honestly, it's been very fascinating to look into with what Cartoon Network has in store, but it's especially with the fact that now Cartoon Network is going to be 35 years old. Now we're like, it's going to be great to see like how they're going to go and look back upon their history, and even having a chat with a lot of these creators as well, rather it be the classic ones like Genndy Tartakovsky, Craig McCracken, or Danny Antonucci, and several others, to some of the more recent ones as well, like with Rebecca Sugar or Penn Ward, and all of those people right there. So honestly, in regards to Cartoon Network and Adult Swim as well, definitely some interesting stuff. But I think it's more the anniversaries that I'll be keeping an eye out for. And with all that said, now it's time I like to go and pass this on to the chat wall. And now I want to ask you all, what do you all think about Cartoon Network's announcements? Which are the projects that you're the most excited to hear, or you're the most excited to see? So let me know what you all think on this. All right, so there's definitely some really cool announcements for me. I'm really happy that Genndy Tartakovsky is returning to his roots at Cartoon Network with Heist Brothers, and I'm really interested how he'll do a Conan the Barbarian series, and I'm also interested in the upcoming Cartoon Network documentary. I'll admit, I was always more of a Nickelodeon kid, but it will be extremely cool looking into the network's history and how it evolved over the years. All right. I want to be excited for Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers Animation's future, but part of me is not holding my breath, considering we still have, still happening, and most of these could be delayed or outright canceled. I hope I'm wrong, of course, because Warner Brothers needs this, because they have what it takes, both in film and television. But for now, fingers crossed. But hey, still though, like as I said before, let's be happy with the announcements that we have gotten, and hopefully they will provide us with a brighter future. Anyways, here are my thoughts on announcements from WB Television. I am excited for Super Mutant Magic Academy, Scooby-Doo anime, some DC projects like Starfire, and a Cartoon Network documentary, but Robot Chicken, don't ruin my childhood. Genndy working on Conan the Barbarian sounds interesting. But where is Red Sonja? Red hair and bikini chain armor from her comics. Come on, Genndy, bring women power. Also, today is my birthday. Oh, happy birthday. Well, I mean, let's go one thing at a time in terms of the Conan stuff. Like, yes, I am aware, like, Red Sonja is very similar to Conan the Barbarian and has a following of her own. But, let's go and take it one step where we'll see if there is an audience for that Conan the Barbarian movie. And maybe down the line, if that works out really well, maybe we could end up with a Red Sonja spinoff. I mean, I guess we'll see. Let's see, what other comments do we have? Wow, Genndy Tartakovsky is going to be busy with both shows, and I will be watching. Heck, I watched Primal earlier this year because I became obsessed with his work. Now, thanks to me watching the movie Fix. But the one I am hyped for is the docuseries on Cartoon Network. I would love to learn the history of Cartoon Network, even though I saw your animation look back on the channel, and not to mention the Robot Chicken specials, since I enjoy Robot Chicken. Yeah, but I mean, like, do keep in mind that with my Cartoon Network documentary, that was from a decade ago. Even I have to admit, I think the one that they got coming up is going to be much stronger, and not to mention much more current, where they are going to update with some of the more recent stuff that has happened on the channel. All right, so let's see. Do we have any other comments here that I haven't read? Just to go and see. I am definitely looking forward to the Cartoon Network documentary series. Okay, so the documentary is so far what's really been getting a lot of hype for it. Anything else though? I just want to see. Oh, someone has also mentioned another documentary series worth checking out. The docuseries for Industrial Lights and Magic. Oh, that's another great one also. That's another one to go and check out. Okay, well, surprisingly enough, we don't seem to have any more comments here. So I think this is a good point where now we can go and actually take a break. And when we do come back from this one, well, I will say we're going to go and step aside from Warner Brothers for now. And we are going to go and check out some of the updates from Universal, including a new trailer that they brought out. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back, everyone. Now, when it comes to our next story, now we are going to go and look into the updates from Universal. And by the way, before I continue, I just want to go and point out, yes, I am aware that as I am recording this, there was also the big news that just broke out that Comcast, the parent company of Universal, is going to be completely splitting itself. And admittedly, I didn't go into a lot of details. Like, I didn't go and further research into what's going on with that. I may talk about it on the next episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I know that sounds like a pretty big thing going on, but for now, I am just going to go and focus on the animation news that was recently revealed on the Universal side of things. Now, first off, let's go and talk about the reveals from Illumination. And even before Annecy officially began, the head of Illumination, Chris Meledandri, mentioned about some of the projects that are going to be coming soon from Illumination, such as, of course, we're going to be getting a bunch of Mario movies in the future, not just direct sequels, but also the possibility that we will be seeing spin-offs as well. And at the same time, he also revealed that in production is going to be third installments of Sing and The Secret Life of Pets. What is possibly the biggest reveal from Illumination is that next year, there's going to be a new original movie coming out, which is going to be a sci-fi feature called Not Alone. And we do have a little bit of info on what this is going to be about. I just want to see if there is a log line, if they would say what this is going to be. Okay, well, I guess we do have this description here, to which, by the way, of course, like the biggest headline about Not Alone is the fact that it is going to be starring Timothée Chalamet and Selena Gomez, to which it says here, reading from my source on Variety, in his animation debut, Chalamet will voice Joe, an introverted rocket mechanic who lives a quiet life alone, according to the announcement, which was made out of Annecy. Gomez is set to play Fran, a brilliant astrobotanist who is developing the world's first ever plant-fueled rocket. And then going into this, this is what I was going for. This is the synopsis. When Joe and Fran are brought together to prepare for the inaugural launch of this revolutionary rocket, there are immediate sparks, but neither is particularly adept at romance. Life becomes more complicated when three aliens, tiny, unruly, and adorable, take refuge in Joe's home. Dunk, Welly, and Sherm are on the interplanetary run from a zealous yet inept officer of the law named Zandro. The aliens determine that Fran's rocket rocket could provide them means of getting back home to safety. And that movie, by the way, is going to be coming out next year, specifically on, what is it again? Yes, April 16th, 2027. And it's also worth noting, by the way, that the film shall also be directed, or at least co-directed, by Illumination veteran Eric Guyon, as well as... let's see. Okay, well, we got one of the co-directors. Do we have another info about who are the main directors here? Or okay, yeah. Oh, there. No, we don't have that. Okay, yeah, but okay. So it says it's going to be. So it says it is going to be co-directed by Eric Guyon. At least we do have... Oh, and Jonathan Deval. Okay, so it's Eric Guyon and Jonathan Deval. Gotcha. So that's the announcement for Not Alone. But then we also got the DreamWorks side of things. And there was one big announcement that DreamWorks has done, and that is reveal about something that was technically kind of announced before, but now things have become a lot more official, in which, yes, coming soon, we are indeed getting a Donkey spin-off movie. And not only did they give us a little bit of info and confirmation about the Donkey spin-off film, to which it is going to be more of a prequel, to which we are going to see the origins of Donkey and how he became the lovable jackass we know him today. But on top of that, they have also confirmed the release date, which, according to my source on Deadline, is said that it's going to be coming out in around 2 years from now on June 30th, 2028. But the big thing that I want to go and discuss with you all is not necessarily any of these announcements, but rather a new trailer that came out from DreamWorks Animation. One that is meant to go and really hype things up for what is pretty much one of the most anticipated animated movies of this year. So without further ado, let's go and check out the trailer for the upcoming DreamWorks Animation feature, Forgotten Island.
You know how you're always saying, I need to plan ahead in life? Well, I've got a plan for our future. Full dog. Oh no. Raw, you in there, buddy?
That my best friend.
And that is Forgotten Island, to which it is going to be coming out on September 25th in theaters. So when it comes to this trailer that came out, I'm not gonna lie, I will say that during the first half of it, or before it would say this September, I looked at like what they would offer with the trailer, and I thought to myself, now I don't know. Yes, this is going to be a pretty hot take, but honestly, I feel like this trailer is a bit weaker than the previous one that we had, because with the first trailer, it amazed people. Like, it pretty much shocked us of like, oh, this is going to be an epic adventure. But then with this second trailer, and I mean, this is not necessarily criticizing what the movie is going to be. I think this is more just the fault of the trailer itself with what they would go and present. There's just a lot of it where I kind of feel like a lot of like the charm and a lot of what they would go and offer is just, now I'm at the point where it's like, I don't know, honestly, because number one, it feels like now there's a plot element where it's basically going to be the family-friendly version of The Hangover, where now you got like the two friends, like they're trying to make the most out of their last night together or their last day together before one goes to the US to go and study. And then suddenly the party got so wild that suddenly they just don't remember what it is anymore. And then suddenly they got a bunch of other stuff happening, like right over here. Like suddenly you got the whole hangover bit that happened.
Where are we? You're said about it.
Like, you got that's going on. So in terms of the plot, like, yeah, you got those hangover aspects where it's just the characters trying to remember what exactly happened that got them into the Forgotten Island. So that's one thing that for me feels a little bit iffy. And also, this is another one, and I'll just say now, might be a bit of a hotter take. I kind of feel right now, like, with a lot of the dynamic animation that it's doing, I know that it is an element that is getting a lot of praise, but I feel like this trailer is really trying to sell that very hard, to the point where now it's starting to feel a little bit like it's a bit of a gimmick per se. Like, now they're just really throwing a bunch of things where it's trying to say, like, hey, animation fans like these stylized animation things. You know, they like the stylized art that we try to do. They like things that look like Spider-Verse and K-pop Demon Hunters. We need to go throw in as much of all that as possible. We need to go and highlight a bunch of that stuff. And I mean, like, there is a part of it where, like, yes, it does look cool as is, but there's also another aspect where I do feel like it really is much, you know, like, it really feels like this is getting, you know, it's more the factor where it's trying too hard to sell on style over substance. And even that, like, the style feels like, okay, now this is becoming a bit much, where it's starting to kind of repeat itself. Again, maybe this is not going to be the case when we will watch the movie itself, but it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of worried that the Spider-Verse stylized animation is starting to, like, wear off its charm, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of that with this trailer that we got right over here. It's just like, now it's at the point where, like, it's becoming a bit much, you know, like, especially over here. But then I will say, by the second half of it, after it says this September, and we fully get into when we do get into the Forgotten Island, that's when things are starting to become like, okay, now we see where the actual movie is going to be coming up and what's going to be happening, especially with the two new characters that we are introduced. Number one, like, first off, we do have Raw over here, which is this werewolf character that's going to be assisting the two lead girls along the way in Forgotten Island. More of a comic relief, and you can tell with this dude that this is a guy I feel I can't help but feel like they really are trying hard to make him an internet favorite. And not to mention, there was even one part, like, right over here, as you can see. Some people have noticed it, but dude is doing the Family Guy death pose. This is straight up the Family Guy death pose, with the arm in the back and the feet just sticking out over there. Like, that is like this is straight up. They really want to craft this guy to be like an internet favorite, where, like, whatever he would do, it would be like meme worthy. And not to mention, we also got the villain as well, the one who would go and eat up on memories, the one that the girls have to, like, run away from so that they could still have their memories intact. Now, one thing that I will say, however, and this is a little piece of criticism right now, is that, at least from the trailers that I'm seeing, I kind of do feel like with those two new characters, they do feel like they are kind of recycling a bit from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Like, you got Raw, who, honestly, with his traits, feels a bit like we're going to be getting another Perito, like in The Last Wish. And then we got the villain here. Well, yeah, she definitely is a pretty menacing character. She also has those aspects that feels like she's copying a lot from Death in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So there are those elements that I do feel like the directors are kind of like repeating themselves with this movie, where they're just saying, well, it worked in this, let's also apply to that to make our movie good. But I don't know. Like, I know that I'm being pretty cynical towards this trailer here. And I mean, yes, I will be honest with my opinion that I don't think this trailer is as good as the first. But at the same time, however, honestly, like a lot of these criticisms, I am open to the idea that maybe it's just the trailer's fault and that maybe we're going to get something pretty awesome when the movie does come out. That's not going to change that I am pretty optimistic with what's going to be in store with Forgotten Island, but I don't know. I think like I think a lot of it is just the trailer with the way that it is presenting it is a bit of a misfire, at least to me. I mean, I understand if there are people out there who are still excited and that this is also adding into the hype of it, but I'm like, of course, with what I'm doing here with this podcast in general, I'm just expressing my opinion, but hopefully those doubts can be proven wrong when the movie shall be released. And if you are excited to go and check out Forgotten Island, then keep in mind that the movie shall be coming out in theaters on September 25th. And with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you all, what did you all think about the Forgotten Island trailer? Did you guys enjoy it much more than I did? Do you guys have a bit of your doubts and you're not sure how this is going to come out? Let me know what you think. And also, I'm going to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you, hold on a sec, let me just go and put up a poll. Did you like the new trailer of Forgotten Island? So now I'll go write down yes, then I'll write down I'll write down no, and see what the chat wall has to say here. Okay. Let's see. I'll start with something a little bit different. Okay. Here's a little fun fact about Forgotten Island. The vampire girl, voiced by Lea Salonga, the singing voice of Jasmine, is is that how you say that? Is Manananggal. In Filipino folklore, it's a vampire who leaves its bottom half with intestines sticking out and preys on pregnant women. Of course, this is a kiddie version. Malaysia has a similar vampire called Penanggalan. I do apologize if I'm screwing up the names here, except it's just a floating head with trailing organs. Anyways, can't wait to see the film. All right, let's see now. I'm not gonna lie, the second trailer got me really hooked with this feature. The animation is stunning, not too surprising. The expressions look cute, and hear me out, Raw is my favorite part of it. DreamWorks ain't beating the allegations since they never failed to make me and everyone else simp for furries like Diane. Regardless, I'm still down to give Forgotten Island a chance. I hope it'll be awesome. All right, let's see. I'll go with this one. I feel like we saw a little too much, but it still looks like a fun and interesting movie. Honestly, I think the beginning part at the fast food restaurant was pretty funny, with one girl just lying about feeling cool when she's not. I get what you mean though about sort of the family-friendly hangover and the overdoing the animation. Like, I get what it's doing being anime-esque, but it's still a little much. Though I'm still seeing Cars when it's being re-released in September. All right, let's see. So there are some interesting announcements from Universal. Illumination is releasing an original film that sounds interesting. I am excited for Forgotten Island, and I hard disagree on the hangover parts. Like, come on, give respect to people and artists for its folklore from the Philippines. Unlike Teenage Kraken, this original film is released in September, which is safe from those big movies that are happening during the summer. No, this is no disrespect to how it honors the folklore from the Philippines. It's just the plot itself, at least from what they're presenting in the trailer, is not really sticking to me. That's where I feel like it's not, like, I don't know. I don't feel like it's the best that they are presenting for the movie itself. Well, let's see. Universal is definitely offering some interesting announcements. I'm glad Illumination is finally getting a new original film. The Donkey spin-off could be interesting. As for the Forgotten Island trailer, it really impressed me, especially with its beautiful looking animation and fun characters. I'm definitely curious about it. The only unfortunate thing, people continuing to use the movie to slam and hate Disney for absolutely stupid reasons. But then again, you know that those people who are using Forgotten Island to hate Disney are the exact same kind of people who are later going to go and hate on DreamWorks because of the CoComelon movie and the Shrek 5 redesign. So who the fridge cares when they're only doing it for clout? And by the way, well, it looks like it's almost unanimous, in which, with the exception of one vote, all of those who did vote on the poll said that yes, you are excited, or you actually did enjoy the new Forgotten Island trailer. All right, nice to see. Let's see if there are any other comments to go and check out. Let's see. Honestly, I kind of agree with what you said. While the Forgotten Island part does show promise, I can't help but agree about the animation, which isn't bad, I must stress, but it seems to be a little too flashy, if that makes sense. Maybe it's just me, but while I do like the Spider-Verse animation, I'm starting to feel fatigued too. Overall, a weaker trailer, but I still have hope for the final film. Yeah, exactly. I do get what you mean there. Let's see. From what I'm seeing, Universal is impressing me with what they got. Whether it be a third Sing movie, a new movie starring Paul Atreides and Mavis, and even the Forgotten Island was pretty fun. Really, the only downside is that, yeah, of course, the same thing. The Disney haters are weaponizing the Forgotten Island trailer as a way to attack Disney. Seriously, guys, grow up. Yeah, but again, they're just, you know that these guys, they don't even care about Forgotten Island. They just want to go and gather up those AI generated likes on Twitter and stuff like that. So really, like, what do they know about animation? All right. Okay. Oh, I think we got time for one more comment here. I'm probably in the minority, but I actually like this one more than the first, mainly due to its more comedic tone compared to the more dramatic tone of the first trailer, which, with the addition of the stylized animation reminding me a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters, though I do absolutely see where you're coming from with how it just looks more like a gimmick just to please all of the pretentious animation snobs, hoping it'll still be a nice balance of comedy and drama. All right. Or actually, I think I got one more to see. I agree that this second trailer is a bit weaker than the first. It doesn't change that I'm still excited for it. I find some of the humor funny, and the animation is great, and I like the new werewolf character voiced by Dave Franco. First Titus and now Raw. In conclusion, this didn't get me more excited for it, but didn't make me less excited for it. You know what? I do understand where you're coming from, and I will say that, yeah, honestly, I know that, again, I did sound a little bit more critical towards this trailer, but again, this is just for the trailer. That's not going to change how I am still also very excited for how the movie itself is going to be, and it's still offering a lot of good so far. So once again, if you are excited to go and check out Forgotten Island, then keep in mind that the movie shall be released later in theaters on September 25th. And with that said, now we are going to go on to our next break, and when we do come back, we got one more big round of announcements that we're going to check out from Annecy, and stay tuned because we're not going to go into the big announcements, but rather the big announcements of the small projects. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, our final big round of announcements at this year's Annecy is going to be coming from Disney. And of course, at Annecy, the big thing that they would be talking about is in regards of their 2 upcoming animated features, which includes Hexed, that's coming out later this year, and Gatto, the Pixar movie that'll be coming out in March of 2027. And of course, they would go in length in terms of what is happening behind the scenes, the craftsmanship that they are doing for each of the films, and also giving them a little, giving the people attending the festival some previews of what's going to be in store with both of these films. But the biggest announcement that came from Disney is not necessarily about the movies themselves. It's not about Hex and it's not about Gatto, but rather they revealed that there's also going to be something that, well, it's been a while since we've had something like this, but Disney did reveal at Annecy that those 2 films will be coming with some animated shorts. Yes, it's not just the Cat in the Hat that's going to be coming out with an animated short with Daffy season. We're also going to have Disney, who have a couple of new animated shorts that will be associated with Hexed and Gatto. And the first one that I have for you today is going to be the one associated with Hex, which is Lilo and Scratch, Lilo and Scratch, an all new Lilo and Stitch short. And to go and read you a little bit of what this short is going to be about, from my source here on Deadline, it states, it brings back Stitch and Lilo alongside a new rescue cat character intent on eating Pudge the fish. And one major thing that they have revealed here is that, of course, we got Chris Sanders, who's going to be coming back to go and voice Stitch. But as for Lilo, she is actually going to be voiced by the girl who played Lilo in the 2025 live action movie. So yes, Maya Kealoha is now going to be playing the animated Lilo as well. And on top of that, while we do have this article here on Deadline that does present a basic description of what has happened with the Lilo and Scratch announcement, there is also this article here from Laughing Place, to which this one actually goes further into detail about the presentation when the Disney presenters went and discussed about what is going to be in store with Lilo and Scratch. And by the way, just a quick side note, if you want to know more about the Disney announcements at this year's Annecy, I recommend going into Laughing Place because they really went into detail about what happened during the Disney panels, really went in depth about what happened when they talked about Hexed and Gatto, as well as the animated shorts. And even I did see there was one person in the chat wall did actually posted some interviews with the people who were presenting. And in terms of Lilo and Scratch, of course, we also got the directors of Lilo and Scratch who were involved, specifically Malcolm Pierce and Fawn Veerasunthorn, in which they went in depth into what went into the making of Lilo and Scratch, in which some of the details that they have revealed is that on top of the fact that this is going to be a 2D, 3D hybrid animation in which there are going to be some elements that will be 2D animated where they will stay true to the watercolor backgrounds from the original. But at the same time, you got the characters that will be 3D models, but they will do their best in order to stay true to the original look of Lilo and Stitch. Basically, to make 3D look like 2D, similarly to what we have seen with what they have done with stuff like Paperman or Wish, for example. And on top of that, considering that this was a Lilo and Stitch project, you can imagine that the people at Disney Animation were very excited and that they really want to be on board with making the project. And this even includes those who did work on the original 2002 movie. And one person who was considered a major help, according to my article on Laughing Place, is actually Alex Cooperschmidt, who was the original supervising animator on Stitch. And he really did help things out in terms of guiding Lilo and Scratch. And it even says here, Chief, I might as well go and read this whole paragraph here, to which it states, for Vera Sunthorn and Pierce, Lilo and Scratch is a passion project. When word got out that they were pitching a Stitch short, the studio's animation nerds came running, and so did some of the artists who made the 2002 film. Chief among them, Alex Cooperschmidt, the original supervising animator of Stitch, who is animating on the short by hand, on paper, and who keeps reminding the team that this is a cartoon and to push it far. The filmmakers show a photo of Cooperschmidt at his desk working on an actual shot for the short. So again, keep in mind that this one is going to be coming out at the same time as Hex. While also, meanwhile, on the Pixar side, of course, they would go talk a lot about Gatto, but they also revealed that they have a short that's going to be attached to the movie, in which it is also based on an already existing IP. And that one is going to be called Loving Dory. Yes, this is going to be a Finding Nemo short, to which this one is going to be directed by Lou Hamu Lahaj. I hope that's how you say his name. I do apologize, Lou, if I got that wrong. But considering that he has done a few other projects at Pixar, including directing one of the episodes of Win or Lose, now he's going to go a bit bigger, where he's going to be directing the Finding Nemo short, or you got to be directing Loving Dory. And in terms of that plot over here, it says, going back to my source on Deadline, the new work, tapping into the Dory and Nemo waterverse, sees Dory enjoy an unexpected dalliance with a plastic bag floating through the sea. And one thing, I might as well just get this out of the way to say, yes, this is actually the project in which they are going to be bringing back Ellen DeGeneres to be the voice of Dory, as well as bringing in several of the other original actors from Finding Nemo for this particular project. And to go a little bit into detail, again, going back into Laughing Place, when they would go and go inside about what this is going to be about. I'm not going to read the synopsis here because they went into like full-on spoiler territory. They might as well describe the entire short right here. It says that rather than simply describe the film, Hamul Lahaj recreated his original story session pitch for the crowd, interleaving it with never before seen in progress footage that he notes hardly anyone at the studio had seen yet. The pitch, however, wasn't the full story, so even the Annecy audience will have to wait until the project is finished. Okay. Even though with this one, it's like, it does describe a lot, but you know what? Okay, if it's not going to be all of it, then let's go and describe like one part over here. To which it says, we rejoin Dory dropping Nemo off at school. Alone, Dory catches sight of the floating bag, mistaking it for a jelly, and panics, crashing into it and tumbling into a patch of mushroom coral where she gets stuck. The bag drifts close and gently brushes the seaweed from her face, and in a startlingly romantic caress, Dory blushes, and what's sure to go down as one of the animation's strangest meet-cutes is born. So apparently it's going to be a bit of a love story between Dory and a paper bag. That's apparently going to be a bit of the plot, at least from what they are describing. I could totally be wrong, but that seems to be the big thing and why they're calling it Loving Dory. But I will say, it's honestly quite funny to go and read about this. But I remember it wasn't that long ago when I had Rachel as a special guest on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast just a couple of weeks back, and we were actually talking about this. We actually did mention how we did miss the days when studios would go and attach an animated short before the movie would go and be on. We miss when we would see shorts before Disney movies or especially Pixar films, considering that we did talk about that with the Gatto teaser trailer. So we did get more in depth, talking about having those animated shorts, and yet lo and behold, here's Disney coming back with more animated shorts for both Disney Animation and with Pixar as well. And of course, this is not even to mention that The Cat in the Hat is also getting an animated short with Daffy Season. But I will say with those shorts in particular, I'm going to say that when it comes to the Loving Dory short, I will say there is a part of me that is a little bit mixed. I mean, I enjoy the Finding Nemo movies. Like, of course, they're a lot of fun. But the thing that honestly kind of weirds me out a little bit with Loving Dory is the fact that they're gonna bring back Ellen DeGeneres. And in that regards, it's like, I'm just there like, are you sure you want to do that, Pixar? Are you sure you want to bring her back after everything that's been revealed, in which her fun-loving and caring nature turns out to be just an image, and that Ellen turns out to be much more cruel in real life? That's just one thing that I'm not 100% sure if I feel like I'm ready to be on board. It's just the return of Ellen DeGeneres, even if it is just coming back as Dory. That's a thing where I'm like, I don't know, guys. But then you have the Lilo and Stitch cartoon. And that one, I will say, that I feel like sounds very promising. That sounds like something that can be a lot of fun, especially with the factor where it is emphasizing that it's gonna be a cartoon. And if we are going to be getting a Lilo and Stitch cartoon, that is something I feel I'm on board, because if we are going to be making like straight up goofy cartoons that's more about the laughs more so than it is like, you know, telling a story or like expressing a lot of heart and stuff like that, who better than to have than with Stitch? I mean, yeah, sure. Some could argue like, oh, why don't you go like in with what Warner Brothers is doing? Why not make like another Mickey Mouse cartoon or something? But I feel like Stitch, like considering that he is known as like Disney's go-to chaotic character, I think it would honestly really work out to go and have like a fun and funny cartoon, especially like if we're gonna have Stitch trying to make sure that like you know, like trying to make sure the cat doesn't get into like trouble or stuff like that, you know, almost like a feed the kitty kind of situation, or that, you know, making sure the cat doesn't mess up the house as much as like Stitch would. Honestly, it would be funny. It would honestly be cute. But one thing I will say I am very curious the most about is in regards to the animation style that they're going to pull off, to which they say that they are going to do everything they can in order to recreate the original animation style, and using a mix of both 2D and 3D onto it. That's one thing I want to know with what they are going to do, because when it comes to Disney, especially when they would go and produce animated shorts, that's when they go all out in terms of their experimentation, in terms of their creativity, like to really go and explore what new can they really do in terms of their animation. And I will say, like, if you guys haven't seen some of the more recent animated shorts that Disney Animation put out, like, honestly, they are very worthwhile. And that's actually another thing that I would highly recommend you would go and check out on Disney Plus. Like, considering that one of the directors of the Lilo and Stitch short is Malcolm Pierce, there is his short Versa that came out. And honestly, it's a real tearjerker. It's actually very good and beautifully animated with what they have done. It's one of those that honestly, it feels a bit unfortunate that it didn't get nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Short. But still, I feel like it should have. It really is worth it. And I think the team at Disney and what Malcolm Pierce has done with that, I think it is absolutely worth it. It is fantastic. So overall, though, I will say, and like even in terms of like, if I could go and put out a quick comment in terms of what Disney has revealed a little bit with discussing about, with Hex and with Gatto, honestly, a lot of it does sound pretty promising so far with both of these films. Rather it be with Hex, with how they are exploring more about their own concept concept of like what is a witch and creating this witch world, or even with Gatto, where Pixar is experimenting with this brand new art style and even putting out some new images with it. That is one thing I will say is going to be exciting to check out. So overall, I will say with Disney's announcements, I will say it's definitely out of left field where they're just coming in and saying like, oh, by the way, we got some shorts, but it is a very welcoming announcement. And personally, it does make me feel like, I'm not going to say like straight up excited, but at least optimistic to see what more that they have in store. Maybe not as much with Loving Dory, because again, we're going to have Ella DeGeneres back. So like, I don't know about that, but at least with the Lilo and Stitch, at least with the Lilo and Stitch short, it does give me an additional reason to be excited for when Hex is going to be coming out. And if you are excited to go and check out these shorts, then keep in mind the Lilo and Scratch short is going to be coming out with Hex on November 25th, while the Loving Dory short is going to be coming out with Gatto on March 7th. I believe that is the release date. You could correct me if I'm wrong. And with that said, now it's time I like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to go and ask you all, what do you all think about the Disney animated shorts announcement with Lilo and Scratch and Loving Dory? Is there one that you're more excited than the other? Are there any questions that you would like to have about it? Let me know what you guys think about this. All right, so let's see what we've got here. I think the biggest highlight, and now one of my most anticipated animated projects from Disney, is Lilo and Scratch. The two being CG, but looks just like their 2D counterparts that you can't even tell, sounds really exciting and could let them try something new with their films in the near future. Hexed and Gatto also sound very promising, especially the former with the early story details, the more cartoony approach, and the Milk Call inspired character designs. I hope it delivers in the end. Ooh, in that case, that actually does sound pretty legit. Let's see now. So yeah, this year's announcements from Disney Animation and Pixar at Annecy does sound great so far. From more updates on Hex and Gatto, I'm glad we are getting more info about their shorts like Loving Dory and Lilo and Scratch. The latter, I know I'm definitely excited the most, since I do know Malcolm Pierce since he directed Versa for the studio. So yeah, I'm happy for him, and I'm sure it will be great. Oh, and I'm happy that Chris Sanders is back at Disney Animation. Well, I mean, it's funny how Chris Sanders is kind of like gradually returning to Disney. And I mean, it's not just with voicing Stitch, but also keep in mind that he is also writing and directing the Lilo and Stitch live action sequel. And I mean, considering that he's already there for Lilo and Scratch, I wouldn't be surprised if they do ask Chris Sanders for a little bit more of a guidance to go and help out with that particular animated short. So yeah, I think honestly, the Lilo and Scratch short does sound very promising right there. Let's see now. I'm not sure how to feel about Loving Dory. Ellen is a great actress, but she's not a great person if you know how she treated people like trash. As for Lilo and Scratch, that's one that I'm most hyped for. I love the idea and plot of how it'll turn out, both visual-wise and story-wise. I already love the designs for Scratch. She's super cute, and I bet she'll sell like hotcakes. Also, one request for Disney, have the short be dedicated to David Chase. Yeah, I'm sure yeah, honestly, it does. Like, I can imagine like they'll have like a little thing in the credits saying in honor of David Chase, to bring up the fact that yeah, she did recently unfortunately passed away. And I did see in the chat wall, you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but apparently it was revealed that apparently David Chase, like the cause of death might have been AIDS. So it's honestly surprising, but also quite tragic as well. Let's see. Can I make a suggestion? When you do review the shorts, can you please talk about the shorts before the film instead of after? I just think it would flow better for the reviews. I could consider it. I'll think about it, but I mean, this is going to be like much later in the year, so I'll definitely have plenty of time to think about that. Anyways, these short announcements got me very excited. With Lilo and Scratch, it definitely be a cute short and a very good tribute to David Chase, and not to mention having Maya Kaloa playing as Lilo after playing her in the remake. As for Loving Dory, while it might have potential, considering they're bringing back Ellen DeGeneres as Dory, I'm very iffy on that decision. Yeah, exactly. I think this Lilo and Scratch short will be super cute, but I'm very scared when we get a clip of the short. You just know they'll have temper tantrums because it's 3D, and Lilo is voiced by the same live-action counterpart. Okay, Loving Dory sounds just really weird, though. The Pixar Annecy announcement that makes me excited is Cars Lightning Racers, because all the voice actors are back, and that people behind it seems like they actually care. It's for preschoolers, but still, Owen Wilson is back as Lightning McQueen. Hey, if you're excited for if you're excited for that series, I mean, good on you. I mean, like, I'm not gonna stop any Cars fans if they want to go and check out Lightning Racers. So, you know, like, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not interested in checking it out, but if you're excited for it, you do you. And if you are excited for it, don't worry, it's a good thing. Let's see, what other comments do we have over here? For the Dory short, I love the Nemo franchise, but there is the obvious elephant in the room, so I don't know. But I think the Stitch short could be a lot of fun. By the way, since I didn't say the last episode about David Chase, I was heartbroken when I heard, considering how much I love the characters of Lilo and Chihiro. But I wonder if it'll be another Good Dinosaur or Search for SquarePants situation where people will just praise the short much more than the actual movie. Well, that's more of a factor of a wait and see. I mean, like, one step at a time, and we're still like months away before they would get officially released. So, I mean, you could be right, but at the same time, it might not happen as well, where the movies would also get as much praise as the shorts also. So we'll wait and see on that. Let's see now. An important thing to bring up is the fact that all these shorts, with these Disney and Pixar shorts and even the Daffy short in front of the Cat in the Hat, it does feel a little bit like they need to put a short with an established IP in front of these movies to bring more interest to some people, especially in Disney's case, since they're putting in these shorts in front of original features. I mean, that is sadly true. I mean, that, like, you can argue that it is kind of a factor where if you want to bring in crowds to go and check out more original movies, then you have to go and put in like an IP. I mean, I get the direction that they're trying to go. And I mean, this isn't Disney's first time that they have done so. I mean, I remember a few years back with Elemental, I could be wrong on it, but I believe there was an Up short that they put out, a very heartfelt Up short, considering that I believe it was one of the last projects that Ed Asner did, where he was where he played Carl Fredricksen. Yeah, Carl's date, exactly. So it's not the first time that it happened, but unfortunately it says less about Disney, and it's more about the current situation with original animated features, because regardless if it is from Disney or if it is from another studio, like if it's from DreamWorks or Sony, for example, then yeah, like, they need to do a little bit more in order to go and like attract audiences to watch more original animation, because it's a lot more of a tougher challenge to do so than it is for an existing IP like the Mario Galaxy movie or Toy Story 5. Anyways, let's see what other comments. Do we have any more comments, actually? Just want to make sure I got... Okay, okay, this one already mentioned like what I brought up here. Let's see. I'm happy to see that studios are putting shorts in front of their animated flicks now more than ever. I don't know how to feel about the Dory shorts since Ellen is coming back as the voice of Dory. I am more excited for Lilo and Scratch since I love the first movie. And I am down to see more of Stitch's shenanigans. Overall, I can't wait to see how these shorts from Disney turn out. All right. And I believe we are pretty much good with this. Or, you know what? I think I got time for one more. Okay, let's see. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked Lilo and Stitch are making such a comeback. I can imagine a lot of my classmates would blow up in confetti for that. But I think it's awesome for Maya taking the role like nobody liked the remake. She has something more of a remembered legacy. Along with Dory, I'm kind of happy for her return, especially I love the Nemo films. Couldn't be more excited. All right, so it is nice to see that we got some more anticipation and some hype for these animated shorts, so that is great to see. And now with that said, we're going to go on to one more break. And when we do come back, well, this is going to be the one animation news that's not from Annecy, but it is the most controversial animation news that did happen in the past week. So stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is time we are going to go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And on this grand finale, we are going to go and take a break from Annecy, or we might as well go and conclude all the Annecy news for now, because there is also this piece of news that happened. And yeah, this is something where we need to go and talk about, considering that not only is this the most controversial animation news of the week, but this is also, I believe so far, the most controversial piece of news related to this big name IP here. Now, it's not necessarily the show's fault per se, but it is related to what goes on behind the scenes. And yes, this is something that does involve AI. And if you think AI could not sink any lower, well, maybe it's not necessarily AI itself, but it's more in terms of the executives who want to go and use AI. And this is something that there's no other word that I could describe, or no other words that might sound like it's just taking things a little too far, other than despicable. So with that said, let's go and discuss about the Peppa Pig AI contract. Now, as you know, of course, there's going to be more new Peppa Pig episodes on the way, considering that the owners of Peppa Pig, Hasbro, is demanding to have more new cartoons and that we could keep the legacy of Peppa Pig going. However, when it was time to go and provide the actors, including the child actors who would play characters like Peppa Pig, George, and others, they brought out a new contract that had a new specific clause that they want to do. And this is where things take it a little bit too far. So going into my source on Deadline, it says here, Hasbro, the US entertainment giant that acquired the Peppa Pig brand in 2019, is asking child actors on the animated series to sign over their voices to artificial intelligence under new contract terms Deadline can reveal. Industry sources say AI clauses are now frequently appearing in kids' contracts on TV and film projects, but Hasbro's embrace on the terms of Peppa Pig has become a lightning rod for concern. So this is pretty much to say that technically Hasbro is not the only ones doing this, but this is the one that has gotten the biggest spotlight, the most prominent example of what is going on. And unfortunately, yes, when it comes to these animated projects that do involve child actors, there are companies like Hasbro who try to go and put them onto new contracts where they would go and force the kids to have their voices to be on AI. And yes, using the word force is adapt here. Like it is actually a pretty accurate way of describing it, considering that if they don't sign the contract, then they would be kicked out. It's basically telling those child actors that if you still want to keep working on Peppa Pig, then sign this contract that says that we're allowed to use your voices to train AI. Otherwise, get out. You're going to be fired. So in that regards, you can imagine how when word came out of this, it sparked massive backlash, not just from the public, but also specifically coming from the Agents of Young Performers Association, or the AYPA, in which they put out an open letter in which nearly 1,000 people have now signed. As I'm recording this, there could be more, but still, though, this letter is really getting around and collecting more and more signatures in order for companies like Hasbro to stop. Now, when Hasbro would go and comment about the situation, they did leave some words to go and say about this. So let me just go and find it over here. It's okay. Yeah, I think I found it. Now, they have, or actually, where is it? Is it that one, or would it be the other one here? No, okay, no. I believe it's right over here, in which a Hasbro spokesperson said, Hasbro is aware of the open letter circulating regarding AI clauses in children's performing contracts, or children's performance contracts. We are not able to comment on specific negotiations or contractual agreements. The protection of child performers is core to who Hasbro is. It's part of our DNA. As industry standards around AI continue to evolve, we are committed to engaging with this issue in a responsible and transparent manner. Actually, I do believe it's quite earlier in which they actually said something. Yes, it's actually over here, where prior to that, Hasbro also stated, Hasbro told Deadline that it was committed to protecting child performers, adding that it wished to approach discussions about artificial intelligence responsibly and transparently. So basically a little bit of the same thing to what I previously read there. But what about the AYPA? What do they have to say? Well, I actually do have the open letter here, to which I'll read to you in full. It's not that big, don't worry about it. To which it states here, to studio executives, producers, casting teams, commissioners, and all those shaping the future of recorded performance. We write at a moment when artificial intelligence is already the topic of much dispute, discussion, and grave concern throughout the industry. Most recently, a major studio who owns the IP for an international children's franchise producing a long-running animated television series has offered contracts to child voice actors, insisting that they agree to use the AI to the use of AI, thus allowing them to use the child's voice in all commercial assets within their franchise. The refusal to remove this clause with an attitude of take it or leave it has led us to write this letter to make it clear that this will not be accepted and to bring this matter to the attention of the wider industry. Where the performer is the child, consent must be treated with the greatest of care. Children cannot provide fully informed legal consent, and a parent or guardian's approval should never be used as a blanket license to capture, clone, train, or reuse a child's voice indefinitely. Any agreement involving a child's voice should be fully exempt from all AI usage. No child should have their future professional identity shaped by an AI model created before they were old enough to understand its consequences. Their voice should not become a permanent commercial asset before they have the legal and personal capacity to decide for themselves. We, the undersigned, urge you to commit to responsible industry practice. Collectively, we reject all contracts that require child performers to surrender voice rights indefinitely and without limits. So that's basically the big thing that is going on, is the fact that Hasbro is trying to force AI onto these kids with these new contracts. And like I said before, this really does feel like a new low, with companies desperately trying to normalize AI. And I just find it to be absolutely disgusting with what Hasbro is trying to do and forcing upon it onto kids. Like, one thing I'll just say right now is that AI is not in the position that the tech bros think it is. It's not in a spot where it is fully ready to go and actually to go and like be a part of our future, where it's part of our social norms. And that's mainly because the tech is not as grand as they would claim it is. Because right now, they're always selling on the promise of what it could be, what it can do for people, and how it can be a common part of our lives, when the tech itself is not ready to even be at that point. I don't believe that we're going to see that in our lifetime, that the AI tech could even be at a point where it is ready for proper commercial use. And not to mention that, considering that this is all tech related and that it's all going to be collected in data centers and stuff like that, I can't help but feel like there are going to be those worst case scenarios where that there are going to be hackers out there in which they can go and like take whatever is in those data centers. Hold on a sec. Excuse me, just need to go and clear that out. Ooh, another new fish. Anyways, as I was saying, like, there are going to be those hackers out there. They're going to collect whatever is in those data centers and they'll go and use it for their own purposes. And knowing how the internet can be, that can be extremely dangerous. Twitter is already a very prominent example in which they still have AI tools in which you can go and manipulate whatever image you could go and find that someone uploaded onto the website. And there have been people who would go and use that in order to go and create CSAM. Now, why is that not a factor that would make the grand majority of people to go and immediately quit Twitter and make the factor of having a Twitter account be considered very taboo and something that should legitimately get people canceled for? That I don't know why people aren't doing that as of yet, but this is a prominent example of why right now AI should not be a tool that should be trusted, especially when children are involved. And speaking of children, this is also another factor of why this honestly feels absolutely cruel. Because the thing is that when you're trying to force that upon children, the thing is that you're really going after the most vulnerable and try to take advantage of them for your own personal gain. Because when we say that kids cannot provide consent, this does not just mean in terms of sex. This also means in terms of stuff like this, like with anything that involves some legal action or, getting into like a full-on job. I could speak as an actor that whenever I do see stuff like contracts or when you want to go and register, like to go and submit your audition and stuff like that, there will always be a section where if you would go and you have to go and like sign something, like rather it be an NDA, there's always another section where there is a signature for a parent or a guardian, because if they have to go and give these contracts to kids, they need to make sure that if these kids are under 13 or in some cases under 18, they need a parent or guardian to go and sign so that they can also have the approval to know that, a proper adult also checked on what's in the contract to make sure that everything feels sound and that this is okay for the kid that they are protecting. There is always that in order to make sure that a child's safety, especially when it comes to working in show business, whether it be working for like a movie or a TV show or anything like that, we need to make sure that the kids' protection is like amongst one of the top priorities. Otherwise, it would be like a hell of an emergency and pure PR nightmare fuel if anything goes wrong with that. So in that regards, going into a position where like you want to make the kids sign a contract that would make them give their voice away to AI, Well, I know I keep saying this again, but that really is cruel. It really does feel like you're just trying to take advantage of kids, because kids are not going to understand the full consequences of having your voice be put onto AI, in which they would go and other people could go and use it however they want. And this is not even to mention about the consequences where they would go and use that voice however they want, and they could be in a full-on position where they could just discard the actors. I don't need, they wouldn't need the kids anymore because they already got the voice through AI. They could just go and do whatever they want. And I'll even add, even as an actor, like, I have been offered a bunch of gigs in which I would have to use my voice to train AI, rather it be with my own voice or develop a character voice. I steer clear from that. I don't care how many thousands of dollars they would go and give me. I know that the big consequence is that they'll use that voice again and again, and I wouldn't get much because they would also go and demand a full buyout on it. I mean, if you're going to be using my voice on whatever project you want to hire me for, I want to be sure that every time the voice is used, like, I want to be paid again and again. I want to make sure that, like, if you need my voice again, either hire, bring me back on board, or if you're going to reuse the same voice lines again and again, then I would better get residuals, because that's how it works in the business with actors, is that, when you do get that job, you need, you got to make sure that you could sustain it as a proper business. And a big part of it, of course, is with residuals or to be hired again for another job. And that's why with actors, we have been fully against AI, because it has been a threat to our livelihoods. And especially now that they're going after children, this is where we see how the morality of this aspect has now hit a brand new low, and why this is more of an emergency where we got to stop AI from being fully integrated into acting gigs and stuff like that. Now that we are starting to see that with companies like Hasbro, they're at the point where, it's not beneath them to go and try to use AI so that they could go and copy the voice of children so that they could then go and do whatever they want. That is a line that it should never be crossed. It's one of those things that you would think that everybody should know, nobody should go and do that. But then you're going to get those sociopathic executives that will try to cross that line and see if they could go and take advantage of children in order to capitalize on the whole AI trend. So yeah, honestly, this is something that as an actor, I also want to go and put my piece onto it, where this is just taking too far, and that honestly, Hasbro in general just needs to back out from AI, regardless of whatever use they want to do, whether it be for voices or even for animation or for anything. It's best to go and just step away from AI. If you really do care about the children, if you care about their safety, then the kids should be way more of a priority than AI. If the kids and their parents say no to AI, then you should go and respect that. I think it really is a moment where we need to put Hasbro in a position where we need to ask them, what is it that they care more about? Do they care more about the child actors, or do they care more about AI? Because if they feel, if they would go and force them in a position where they're threatening their jobs as the voices of the characters, where they're threatening that in order to make them sign a contract in order to use AI, that really does highlight that the whole comment of like, oh, we care about their safety, that's our top priority, it just feels like a massive lie. If you really do care about the kids, drop the AI nonsense, because honestly, this is something that not only do the grand majority of people don't want, but it's something that no child should ever be associated with, especially with the current state of how AI is right now. And with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you all, what are your thoughts on the whole Peppa Pig controversy? Regardless of how angry this may have gotten you, I'd like to know what you think on all this. All right, so let's see now. I get that they want to use AI for the sake of consistency with the voices of the child cast of Peppa Pig, but I'm calling it a full-on scam. Companies should not make child actors sign voices away like this is The Little Mermaid. AI cannot be used if you want to keep their cast and avoid recasting a child due to them hitting puberty. I feel like Hasbro is taking a new low. They are using AI to treat kids like they are toys. Exactly. And it's one of those things that honestly, like, yeah, it's one of those consistent changes that has to keep on going, but you don't see many people actually complain about that. Like when you go and watch like Despicable Me, for example, like with every Despicable Me movie, or at least with most of them, they got to keep replacing the voice of Agnes so that she could still sound like a little girl. Or there are some other examples as well, like you know, like you got a Gumball, for example, where in different seasons the kids playing like Darwin and Gumball and stuff like that, like they would often have to go and change things up so that the kids can still sound like kids. And from there, you don't hear people complaining about it. You don't hear people being so upset about like, oh, the voices aren't really that consistent. What are they doing in the studios? Like, they understand the situation that if you're going to be hiring kid actors, then you got to keep in mind that sometimes you got to switch them up once puberty would officially go and hit them. So yeah, honestly, I feel like Hasbro is trying to go and fix a problem that was never even a problem in the first place. All right. Let's see what other comments that we have here. It really sucks that Hasbro is falling from grace ever since Chris Cox took over. The fact that they want kids to sign the contracts for them to use their voice for AI is not only immoral, but very despicable. I do hope they pull back hard because it's absolutely disgusting. I love the shows Hasbro they make and support creatives, but man, the executives are reaching new low with that action. Yeah, exactly. This is honestly beyond disgusting. Seeing that Hasbro would want to go and use AI for children's voices is flat out wrong and cruel, especially with how children can be vulnerable and exposed to this kind of stuff is just low. Seriously, this is why I'm hoping sooner rather than later, the AI bubble can finally burst so that we can finally move on from this whole AI fad. Yeah, we don't know when, but I mean, at some point it's gonna burst, right? Oh, freaking God. Child actors get abused a lot. This is the contract that's going to hurt them in long term. These children are unfortunately the breadwinners for their families, and as sad as gross as it is, part of why actors wanted AI protection is so they can have a job. Imagine if the stage parent just signed and realized their kid wouldn't get money anymore once they go through puberty, but their voice is still used because of the AI being trained. Like, this is gross for the actors, but evil for child voice actors. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, imagine the scenario if they would actually go and do that, where at one point for like a few seasons of like Peppa Pig, for example, you would get a child actor voicing the character. And then once they hit puberty, suddenly their voice gets replaced by AI, and it just really doesn't sound different. And there's just an aspect to it where it really is just gross. And it doesn't matter for what it is. Even if Hasbro doesn't plan on doing that and they just want to do it for like smaller projects, like for toys or for commercials and stuff like that, that still doesn't change that you're taking jobs away from that kid. So, or for any kid who would have the opportunity to voice Peppa Pig. So in that regards, yeah, there's no winning strategy in terms of using AI in order to keep the voice of a child alive for the sake of that consistency. It's just, no, there's no side where it would work out. There's no side where it makes you sound good. Let's see, what other comments do we have? Let's see now. Sleazy executives and demanding greedy parents, the arch enemies of child actors. Yeah, you got that right. Let's see. Who's hungry for some pork chops? So what's the grand finale about? Oh, we're talking about Peppa Pig and that controversy, huh? But seriously though, what an absolute despicable action Hasbro has decided to do instead of actually carrying their actors, especially child actors. All they are doing is endearing the kids' lives and safety and endangering the kids' lives and safety. And I know kids are way smarter than that. So yeah, companies need to stop defending AI or else this is going to get worse. Yeah, I mean, like at this point, I don't know, like, how can you go lower from this? I'm sure there is a way, but again, this honestly just feels like a brand new low with what executives want to do with using AI. And I'm sure that this is going to be repeated where people are going to be pointing out that this is like one of the worst ways that people can go and use AI. You know, it's like right up there with Twitter and Grok, where it's an example of like why we shouldn't have AI in our society in this day and age. All right, I think I got time for reading one more comment. And it says here, this is a nitpick, but can we please put a dot between A and I? Because it's making the name of my favorite singer, Weird Al, look cursed. All joking aside, this is so disgusting that I can't even call AI slop anymore. It's AI diarrhea. Even slop can taste good given the right ingredients. Ask the real pigs. This is unedible. This is vomit-inducing. It's moments like this where I'm glad that Bluey's kids' voice actors were uncredited. Yeah, I mean, like, at least with Bluey, like, we're not hearing that kind of controversy, and I hope this is not happening, in which hopefully AI is staying away from Bluey. But for now, let's just hope for the best that Hasbro is not going to be considering to use AI on Peppa Pig whatsoever. I mean, people are already annoyed by Peppa Pig right now. Imagine how people will feel when they would go and hear AI Peppa Pig. Oh God, that's like a whole nightmare in itself. But anyways, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this, and don't worry, on the next episode, I will be catching up with some more animation news that has been going on. So I just want to go and say that if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel and on the AniMat Live Twitch channel. At the same time, if you are listening to this on whatever podcast service you're listening to, then don't forget to go and follow me there, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, I believe also, and many, many more. And with all that said, I want to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.